Alright, so the next step in our build on Tony's bike is we're taking his 98 to 13 bags off, and we're going to be putting in these 2014 and newer bags. It's going to give it a much better look. Part of that was we already showed you we did a cut through on the lids to add 6x9s, but we're also going to show you how to install these rings and some 10-inch subs. So these are made by a company called Nagy's. These are Nagy's adapters. They fit directly inside your bag. Pretty awesome. They are pretty universal, so they're not going to be pre-drilled at all. They don't come with any hardware. This is what you get. You get a pair of these. But I'm going to show you what to do with them once you get them. We're going to be using an Audison APS10D subwoofer. We're actually using 2 of them. Went up with a 4 ohm load, and we're going to have 500 watts driving these 2 10-inch subs. Audison supplies us a really nice grill that I'm going to do my best to modify these rings where we can continue to use that grill. It's a very small, shallow sub. So it's going to fit in our bag. It's meant for a small air space like this enclosure. I think we're going to get a lot of bass. It's going to sound really, really good. If you're not familiar with who Audison is, it's the same company as Hertz. Electromedia is the parent company, so they're the same company. This is just the best shallow sub on the market. So we're going to be putting this in here and see what kind of results we get. So just follow along as we go through this. Everything's pretty well custom. I don't really expect for you to maybe necessarily do this on your own, but maybe you'll understand what goes into it when you pay somebody to do it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how I want my subwoofer oriented. This is a dual voice coil sub. If I were to put one of these facing downward, it's going to be really hard to get there wired in the future. If something were to unplug it, it's going to be hard to plug it back in. So I'm going to want to orient my sub where it's installed to where they're on both sides. I normally want to try to put one of my screws right through the middle of the adapter where this clearance is for our rear shock. So I'm going to mark the center of that's the upward part. I'm going to take it out of the bag and then mark and drill all my holes. Alright, so a few more things about this Audison sub before we lay it out and start drilling holes. When we're picking a subwoofer to go on our side bag, we want to make sure that we're using something that's going to be very water resistant. You're not going to find a marine company making a shallow tin. So the Audison APS10D or the APS10D, I think that's the right part number, the dual voice or the single voice coil version. Either one is going to have a butyl rubber surround, a polypropylene cone. It's going to be watertight once we silicone it to this at the end. So any water that's going to get to the back side of the bag isn't going to get past here to the voice coil. It's also an 800 watt peak power sub, so we're going to have 1600 watts of peak power, and we're putting in a pretty large Audison amp on it also, so this should definitely be more than enough bass for Tony. So like I said before, we were looking to see where the top of our bag was and also centered of our strut, our rear shock. I want to make sure that I line one of my screw holes up with that. So I put my sub face down on my ring, and then I line one of the holes up with that location. After that, I'm going to pre-drill each one of these holes through. We're going to then install it in the bag, and we're going to do the same thing and drill through the bag in those same locations, because we're going to bolt through this all the way through the bag with stainless hardware to secure it very well. So let's go ahead and get this pre-drilled. All right, so normally I'm going to pre-drill 2 first, drop some bolts through it, and then drill the rest of them. Make sure it doesn't move around. All right, so now I've got 2 bolts in just to kind of hold it in place as I pre-drill the rest of them. Really just going to start each of them, remove the sub, and then use my larger bit to go all the way through. So now I'm just going to drop a couple of the bolts in just to test to make sure that all my holes are in the right place before I drill them into the bag. Lengths anywhere from 1.5 inches to 3.5 inches depending on where you're going through the bag. Alright, so we took our ring that we've pre-drilled, we're going to lay it in the bag, and we're going to line it up where we want it, and we're going to pre-drill a few holes. It'd be better to have a 90-degree drill today. This is all I've got with me, but it's going to work. I'm going to start each of the holes, and I'm going to drill the big hole from the back side. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these drilled, and we'll catch back up once we have it bolted in. Alright, so I got 3 bolts drilled, started, holding that ring in. I then went inside and I pre-drilled outward each one of the additional holes. Now one thing that I do, you don't have to do, but I find it makes it easier, is I actually have a drill bit that is a drill and a tack. It does a 10 30-second thread. That's what I'm going to be doing, some stainless hardware and that same type of bolt. So I'll go ahead and pre-drill all of these, or drill them again, but I'm going to leave this threaded so it'll hold my bolt while I put the nuts on from the inside. It's going to make it a lot more sturdy, and I think it's a lot better way of doing it. Alright, so each one of these bolts are going to be different lengths just because of the way the bag lays. Our speaker is going to be flat, so it's going to take, like I said before, probably 1.5 to 3.5 inch length screws. Once I figure out which ones we're going to be using, I'll put washers back in place on the outside. Alright, so now we have our ring is mounted inside of our saddlebag. All of our bolts are in. I'm now going to drill with a hole saw, a pretty large hole, so I can pull my router bit up through it, and I can router out this hole. Alright, so we've got a router table set up, we've got a pretty large flush trim bit, and we've got us an access hole. So we're going to drop this down over that. Our router bit, because it's a flush trim, has a bearing on top that's going to ride and follow this adapter. It's going to cut us out a beautiful hole, so let's see if we can do this without messing anything up. Alright, we're going to have to adjust our bit up to do the last little section here. That is throwing chips everywhere. That should be enough to finish it out. Oh yeah. Alright, so we've got it routed out. I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to get it all vacuumed up and cleaned up, and then we'll see what we've got. Alright, so we just got done using our router. As you see, it followed that template, cut it out just beautifully. I'm now going to take this back off. I'm going to silicone it when I put it back on to the lid, or to the side of the bag. That way we get a watertight seal. I'm also going to put a round over on this inside so I can hopefully clear the grill I'm going to use with our Audison sub. But got a little bit of cleanup to do. Take this back apart, and we'll catch back up once we get to assembling the sub on. Alright, so this is where we're at on bag number 2 right now. We've already took our ring and we've done our round over on the inside to clear our grill. I've put various length stainless hardware in here to try to get it where it's pretty close to the same height. We don't want it to ever leak water into the bag, so we've siliconed this ring to the bag. I've bolted it, I'll let it dry overnight. So we're ready to put our sub in, but we're also going to have to mount our grill, our spacer ring, because we don't want our sub directly on this. We don't want our surround smacking off of it. So I'll show you what we've got to so far with bag number 1, because we've already got it pretty well finished. So let me get it. Alright, so like I was just saying, we silicone this ring in. We let it dry overnight, pulled the hardware loose, made sure all the hardware was the right length to clear our sub, put our grill through, put our spacer ring through, put our sub in, siliconed it, and bolted it in. So this is really the finished product of the sub. This is taking a lot of time. This is probably 2 or 3 hours per bag. Just being careful. I mean, you don't want to just cut it. I think the end result with the grill turned out really nice. We have our Audison grill. It's going to protect any road debris, anything that might sling up from destroying the sub. The sub is water resistant. I'd say pretty waterproof after I've sealed it in with silicone. But the butyl rubber is not going to be affected by the moisture, neither is the cone material. This thing is awesome. We're going to have 2 800 watt subs with a massive Audison amp running them. This is going to have more bass. If this bag will hold together, it's going to sound awesome. So just hang out with us. I wanted to take a minute. I wanted to show you the difficulty. So I've not showed you every step because you don't want to see me struggle every step. But I want there to be a realistic expectation. When you order a set of subs and you order a set of rings, be prepared. You're going to need a router table, you're going to need flush trim bits, you're going to need round over bits. You know, with the right tools it makes it a lot better, but even with the right tools this has been a heck of a job. We've got more of these to do, but I just want to take time to try to explain to you what goes into that process. Alright, so I wanted to take a second, I wanted to remind you what we're working on. This is a 2009 Streetglide. It has the older style 1998 to 2013 bags on it. You just watched us build a whole set of 14 and newer bags, and it's been a very popular upgrade to do, especially when you're doing the interfering swap as we've done on this bike. So the interfering will look like a 14 and newer with the larger radio, the larger speaker holes, and now we're going to upgrade to those newer bags. It's very simple. We're just going to take out those two existing, the two mounting points, take those bolts out, take the bag off. The front mounting point has to have a hole elongated just slightly to move its mounting point back, so that new 14 and newer bag will go on. Other than that, it's really simple. I think this is definitely a big improvement that's easily done by just about anybody that's got slight mechanical skills. So let me get this bag off, we'll put our new bags on, see how they look. Alright, so the only modification needed to put the 14 and newer is we have to loosen this bracket and bring it into the point that our bolt lines up with that forward hole. Now you've got quite a bit of play on these as long as you don't tighten any of them up all the way, which you just saw me do. Just enough that you can line up this front one. Very, very simple. There's no hiding this monster sub either. So once you have both bolts in, just take a wrench and tighten up this front bracket. So in the future, everything should line back up right where you wanted it to go. That is such a better look already. We've got our new CVO style grills. We have our monster 10-inch subs. Such an improvement. Can't wait to hear it.